Okay, so today we're diving into something pretty fascinating. Uh, Spinal cord learning.
Mm.
We always think of the spinal cord as like this messenger,
Yeah.
between the brain and the body.
Right, a superhighway.
Yeah, exactly. Like a superhighway,
Uh-huh.
carrying signals back and forth.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's capable of so much more.
It really is. Yeah, there's a lot of emerging research showing that the spinal cord is not just a passive relay station.
Oh, wow.
It can actually learn and adapt on its own, independent of the brain.
Whoa. Really? So it's not just those like, knee-jerk reflexes we learned about in like, high school biology class.
Right, well, those reflexes are a good example.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
you think about you touch a hot stove and you immediately pull your hand back before you even really feel the pain,
Yeah.
right? That's your spinal cord acting there,
Wow.
demonstrating some of its autonomy.
Yeah. That's amazing how our bodies can react so quickly to things like that.
Yeah.
But I'm still a little bit hazy on how this whole like spinal cord learning thing works.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like sci-fi, to be honest.
It does sound kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
But it really is all based on the plasticity of our nervous system,
Okay.
especially at the spinal level.
Interesting.
So we're talking about changes in the connections between nerve cells,
Oh.
what we call synapses.
Hmm.
And these synapses can strengthen or weaken over time.
So they're like constantly rewiring themselves.
That's right. It's called synaptic plasticity.
Oh, that's so cool.
So that rewiring allows the spinal cord to fine-tune its responses over time.
So like if I'm learning a new skill,
Right.
like playing the piano or riding a bike,
Yeah,
is that happening in my spinal cord too?
absolutely.
Wow.
So as you practice, you get better,
Yeah.
smoother, more coordinated.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that is the spinal cord learning.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So is this only limited to like motor skills or can it handle more complex tasks?
Well, there's growing evidence that spinal cord learning goes beyond motor skills. For example, studies have shown that the spinal cord can play a role in adapting to changes in sensory input,
Mm.
like adjusting to different temperatures or textures.
So like when I'm in a cold pool
Yeah,
and like my body starts to adjust to it,
exactly.
it's my spinal cord.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy.
So it's constantly working behind the scenes to optimize our responses to the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just adapting to external stimuli.
Right.
There's also evidence that the spinal cord can learn to associate certain stimuli with specific responses,
So,
like classical conditioning.
okay, like a Pavlov's dogs.
Exactly like Pavlov's dogs.
Yeah.
So researchers have shown that even in animals that have had their spinal cords severed,
Good.
specific areas of the spinal cord can be trained to associate like a neutral stimulus, like an electrical pulse,
Mm.
with a subsequent response,
Huh.
like a leg flexion.
So wait a minute.
And this happens even without the brain being involved.
If the brain's not involved, where is this learning happening?
Yeah,
Is it like in the individual cells?
that's a great question.
Yeah. And this leads us to the idea of cellular memory.
Okay.
So while this is still an area of active research,
Yeah?
there's increasing evidence that individual neurons within the spinal cord
Okay.
can retain a form of memory.
So they're like little tiny computers?
Yeah, you can think of it that way.
Wow, that's crazy.
It's pretty amazing.
So, but how does that work? Like, what's going on inside these neurons?
Well, it's all about changes at the molecular level.
Okay.
So when a neuron learns something new, it undergoes these physical and chemical changes.
Right.
And these changes can involve like alterations in the structure of the neuron,
Mhm.
the number of connections it has with other neurons,
Wow.
and even the way it responds to chemical signals.
So each one has like its own little history.
Exactly.
That's wild. And all of this is happening without us even realizing.
Yeah, pretty much.
It makes you wonder what else our spinal cords are capable of.
It really does. We've only just begun to scratch the surface of understanding the full capabilities.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, my mind is blown. Like, I'm seeing my spinal cord in like a totally different light now.
Yeah.
It's like this, like secret partner
Yeah.
that's been shaping my actions, my experiences all along.
That's right.
And the brain's not the only one in charge.
Absolutely. The spinal cord is powerful.
Yeah.
It's dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we learn about it, the more we realize how much we underestimated it.
Yeah, and what's really cool is that we can maybe use this to help people.
That's right. The therapeutic potential is huge.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, if the spinal cord can learn and adapt on its own,
Yeah.
could we use that to help people recover from injuries or neurological disorders?
That's what's so exciting about this research.
Yeah.
There's a lot of promising research going on in that area.
I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, we can definitely delve into that.
Okay.
But let's save that conversation for the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. I'm ready for it.
Great.
So we've talked about, how amazing the spinal cord is, how it's this dynamic learning machine.
Yeah.
Yeah. But how can we use that knowledge to actually help people?
Right. Well, that's where things get really exciting.
Yeah.
The idea that we can tap into the spinal cord's own ability to learn opens up a whole new frontier in rehabilitation.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being able to help people regain function
Yeah.
after a spinal cord injury or a stroke.
Yeah, like giving people a second chance to reconnect with their body in a way that they never thought possible.
Exactly. It's incredible. And one promising avenue is using electrical stimulation.
Okay.
So, by delivering targeted electrical pulses to certain areas of the spinal cord,
Mm-hmm.
researchers are finding that they can actually enhance synaptic plasticity.
So like giving it a little jump start.
Yeah, kind of like jumpstarting the learning process.
Okay.
And they often pair that electrical stimulation with physical therapy.
Okay.
So the idea is to prime the spinal cord with the stimulation
Mm-hmm.
and then provide the actual learning experience through the physical movement.
So like a two-pronged approach for
Mhm.
using technology and the body's natural ability to heal.
Exactly. And there have been some really remarkable cases
Oh, wow.
where people with spinal cord injuries who were told they'd never walk again have actually regained mobility,
Really?
thanks to this combination of electrical stimulation and physical therapy.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's really
It
inspiring.
gives me goosebumps.
Yeah,
What about people who haven't had like a traumatic injury like that?
right.
Could spinal cord learning play a role in other neurological conditions?
Yeah, that's definitely a possibility.
Okay.
Researchers are looking into its potential for a whole range of conditions.
Wow.
From Parkinson's disease to multiple sclerosis.
Okay.
The idea is to find ways to retrain the spinal cord to help it compensate for the damage or dysfunction.
So we're like going straight to the source and not just treating the symptoms.
That's the goal. It's a whole new way of thinking about neurological rehabilitation.
Wow.
And it's not just about electrical stimulation.
Okay.
Scientists are also looking into pharmaceuticals to enhance spinal cord plasticity.
So like drugs that can make the spinal cord a better learner.
Exactly. They're targeting specific molecules
Oh.
involved in synaptic plasticity and neurotransmitter signaling,
Mm-hmm.
trying to find ways to boost the spinal cord's natural learning abilities.
Like a brain boost for your spine.
Yeah, you could think of it that way.
Wow. Are there any like promising drugs out there?
Well, there are a few that have shown some really encouraging results in animal studies.
Okay.
For example, there's one drug that targets a protein involved in synapse formation.
Mm-hmm.
And in studies on mice with spinal cord injuries, this drug has actually been shown to promote the growth of new connections between neurons.
Really?
And that's led to some improvements in their motor function.
That's amazing, but
Yeah.
I imagine it's a long road to get from those animal studies to actual human trials.
You're right. It does take time
Yeah.
to rigorously test these drugs
Mm.
and make sure that they're safe and effective for people.
Right.
But the fact that researchers are even exploring these avenues shows how much potential they see in the spinal cord.
It's really exciting. It feels like a whole new chapter is being written
It really does.
in the story of the human body.
And it's a chapter filled with hope and possibility.
Yeah, but like with any new scientific frontier,
Right.
there's got to be challenges and ethical considerations too.
Absolutely. As we learn more about the spinal cord,
Yeah.
we need to be careful.
Mm.
There are questions about informed consent and access to these technologies, and of course, the potential for unintended consequences.
Right. Yeah, it's like scientific progress has to go hand in hand with ethical reflection.
Exactly.
We have a responsibility to use this knowledge wisely to benefit everyone.
I agree. This isn't just about scientific progress. It's about using it responsibly and
Mhm.
ethically to improve people's lives.
Okay, well said. I have one more question, though.
Okay.
So we've talked about how the spinal cord learns, but can it unlearn things?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
And it's something that researchers are starting to explore.
interesting.
So just as synaptic connections can be strengthened, they can also be weakened. Okay, or even eliminated altogether.
Huh. So like rewinding the tape.
Yeah, in a way.
Wow.
And understanding this process of synaptic weakening or synaptic pruning, as it's often called,
Oh.
could be just as important as understanding how they're formed.
Why is that?
Well, imagine someone who has developed chronic pain because of, like, abnormal learning in the spinal cord.
Okay, yeah.
If we could figure out how to reverse or modify that,
Right.
we might be able to alleviate their pain.
So we can not only help people learn new things, but unlearn things that are hurting them.
That's right. It opens up a whole new realm of possibilities for treating conditions that were once considered untreatable.
It's amazing, and it all comes back to this incredible plasticity of the spinal cord.
That's right.
This is really groundbreaking stuff. It feels like we're on the verge of a revolution. in how we think about and treat the nervous system.
I think so too. And the most exciting part is that we're just getting started.
Yeah.
There's still so much more to discover about this incredible organ.
I can't wait to see what the future holds for this field.
Me too. Yeah.
Okay, well, let's take a short break, and then we'll come back and dive into some of the cutting-edge research that's really pushing the boundaries of what we thought was possible.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we've talked about the potential of spinal cord learning for like everyday life and for like, therapeutic purposes.
Yeah.
What's next for this field? Like, what are researchers looking into now?
Well, one area that's really exciting is brain-computer interfaces.
BCIs.
Exactly, BCI.
I've heard about those. They're like devices that allow people to control computers or prosthetic limbs with their thoughts.
Right. It sounds pretty sci-fi,
Yeah.
but it's becoming more and more real.
Yeah.
And now researchers are trying to connect these BCIs directly to the spinal cord,
Oh.
bypassing the brain altogether.
So someone with paralysis could potentially control a prosthetic limb just by thinking about moving their arm.
That's the idea.
Wow.
The early research is really promising.
It's amazing to think how far we've come in understanding the nervous system.
Yeah, it's incredible.
But with any new technology,
Yeah.
there are always ethical considerations.
Of course, as we delve deeper into the spinal cord and its learning abilities, we have to be very careful. There are questions about informed consent and access to these technologies. And of course, we have to think about the potential for unintended consequences.
It's true, like scientific progress has to be balanced with ethical responsibility.
Absolutely. We have a responsibility to use this knowledge wisely
Yeah.
and to make sure it benefits all of humanity.
Well, this has been a really amazing deep dive into spinal cord learning.
It has.
It's totally changed my perspective on how my body works.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, and it's given me like a whole new appreciation for the potential that's within all of us.
Yeah, I think the most important takeaway is that we're really just at the beginning of this journey. There's so much more to learn about the spinal cord and its ability to learn and adapt.
I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Me neither.
Well, I think we should leave our listeners with this thought. The next time you move your arm or walk across a room or just feel any kind of sensation,
Yeah.
remember that it's not just your brain at work.
Right.
Your spinal cord is playing a vital role, learning and adapting every step of the way.
That's right.
And it's just a reminder of the incredible complexity and resilience of the human body.
Absolutely.
And that there's still so much wonder left to uncover.
Well said. It's truly an awe-inspiring system.
It really is.
And it deserves all of our attention and appreciation.
Absolutely.